Well, good day there, everybody. This is Joe Van Cleve, and welcome to the results of typing assignment number 17. Can you believe we're already up to 17? Hey, look at what I got here. Got my Remington Quiet Writer. That's what I wrote my story on. Hey, let's go check out all the stories for typing assignment 17, the subject of which was about take a found photograph or another kind of a photograph or object like that and write a story about it. All right, let's go check them out. Let's start off with John Monroe's piece. It was written on an Olympia SG3, and it's called Spirit Worm, and this is a wonderful piece. I was so enlightened by this. This is about a photograph of sci-fi author Frank Herbert, who you might know is famous for having written the novel Dune. And this is a great photo, black and white photo of Frank Herbert sitting cross-legged with a typewriter on an ottoman and using a scroll of paper, typing away. And John, your piece is really wonderful. There's some wonderful language in this piece. You say, wisps of worlds only drifting like ornithopters on the sandstorms of science fiction yet to come, as he's working on his novel. What a great line that is. And I like what you're saying about the Soviets like to designate their armored vehicles with numbers preceded by the word object. So object 279, object 1200, etc. You mentioned that further down, and it's really cool that the combination of object 16 and photo 17 drives me to propel slugs to pulp to bring unbidden dreams to life, referring to typing assignment 16 and 17, combination thereof. And John's piece is really talking about how this photograph of Frank Herbert typing on a scroll of paper really makes him, John, itch to write. It really is a wonderful photograph, an amazing photograph. I haven't seen this one before, and so wonderful to see somebody like this typing on a typewriter on an ottoman, his cross-legged appearance, almost a little hint of Eastern spirituality, perhaps, and that scroll of paper hanging off the back, and all the things that, as you allude to in your piece, all the things that scrolls imply. Oh yeah, that was a great piece, John. Thank you very much. Andrew Nichols' piece is really fun, called The Dream Cottage, and his photograph is really cool of this majestic or slightly macabre, perhaps, old stone cottage building, and it was typed on an Everest Model 90. And I had to look up that typewriter. I didn't really have any familiarity with it, but Andrew, that's a really cool looking machine. This story is very fun. This is macabre, kind of creepy. This character, Lady Mary, and the thing that is calling her into the dream cottage. It takes her inside, and the door slams shut, keeping Mary in forever and the world outside until it was ready to begin to unleash the fury that was to follow in the weeks and months to come. And the cottage fell silent and waited once more, and we wonder, what is that fury that will come? This sounds like, Andrew, we need a sequel, we need a part 2, but that's really fun, very good, and it really does match the mood of your photograph really well. Well done. Michael Kitchen's piece is really fun. It is based on this great old photograph of this young woman in Victorian clothing, and it is called Too Weak for a Strong Woman, and it is written on a 1956 Smith Corona Skywriter. What a great little machine that is. And Michael, your pieces are really a lot of fun. I can just hear that honky-tonk piano playing in the distance there. But it's about this brothel, bordello, I assume it is, and these two women, and one is the boss, one is a working girl, and this man that becomes employed there for a while, and his frustration over wanting to have a relationship with a boss which just doesn't pan out. Alas, it's best not to mess with the boss, isn't it? Anyway, this was a really fun piece and a very good period piece. It really matches the mood of the photograph itself. Well done. Now, Diane Cox's piece was really a lot of fun. It is about a little secret agent mouse named Oz who's working with his human agent named TJ. And she wrote this on a Hermes 3000, a mint green Hermes 3000, of course. Yeah, I can relate. So this little mouse is a secret pinhole photographer spy mouse. And he works with his partner for MI5 and for the FBI. And now, you might be aware, Diane, that according to... I have one book on spy cameras. It's one of those pictorial kind of coffee table books. Anyways, it shows one example of a spy camera that was actually used by the KGB during the era of the Cold War, and it had a little strip of 16 millimeter film in it, like a little brass matchbox size camera, and it had like 5 or 6 little pinhole compartments with a little slug you unscrewed to reveal the pinhole. So they actually did use pinhole cameras occasionally for espionage. So your little fictional piece here may not be all that fictional, although I don't know if they used intelligent field mice for this kind of spy field work. That is a pretty funny story, Diane. Well done, well done. I love that. Paul Hopper's piece was very great. It was kind of melancholy and wonderful, and it's about this photograph of little Bobby as a young man standing out in the yard in a pile of leaves wearing this Jimmy Durante glasses and schnoz nose. And it was written on a Smith Corona Electra 120 typewriter. And this is a great little piece. I love the arc of the story, how it goes from him being a small little boy in the early 1950s to at the end of it, he is a grandfather and he finds his same pair of Jimmy Durante glasses in his garage and now uses them to make the grandkids laugh. And he's always had a sense of humor his entire life. That's a great story. I sure would like to meet him. Well done, and Paul, thank you. David Randall's piece is wonderful. It was typed on a 1956 Olympia SM3, and it is really about this postcard, subject of sun in Dedham, England, and it's a wonderful piece because he's imagining the photographer who took this picture, and it's the story of this photographer and how that day he came to make this photo, the last plate of the day. And I really like the story, how it unfolds with the subject of the farmer and how you kind of explain why the farmer appears to be slightly blurred. There's some motion blur going on in there, and his pose is a little awkward because at the last minute he moved while the plate was being exposed. But I really love this, and you captured really well a sense of what it was like photographing out in the field with a large format plate camera, and it's a really great photograph. I love that. What you've done, David, with this photograph reminds me that I love going to thrift stores and antique stores and finding old photographs. Now, I don't purchase that many of them because it's easy, of course, to get way too into it. But occasionally when I find a really special photograph, it's fun to pick one up to purchase it. But I always wonder about who were these people in the photograph, especially if it's like a snapshot kind of photograph. These people are probably all dead, and where are their descendants today? And you just wonder about all the backstory of these photographs. In today's culture with our digital media, I don't know if people will be sifting through old hard drives, finding old images. Probably not, but it's wonderful that we have these paper prints that we can unearth from previous generations. Well done. Well, this next piece is really special. This is my friend Kevin Kittel here in Albuquerque, and he wrote this on a 1961 Olympia SM7, a newcomer to his stable of typewriters. And this is a wonderful photograph, and it is about this young girl in the middle, and that happens to be Andrea, his wife now. And this is a wonderful story of how they met, and what a great tribute to your love for her. And I love the story of how you guys met and how she asked you out to the Sadie Hawkins dance in front of everyone, and of course you couldn't say no. But and I might add also that I really like the script typeface and the dark purplish ink on that piece. Really, that machine really does type well. That's a great story, Kevin. Well done. Thank you. Diane Mayer's piece was written on a 1901 Smith Premier No. 4, easily the oldest machine in this assignment. And this is a wonderful piece, kind of sad in a way. This is about this wonderful color photograph that is of March 1986 in Berlin along the Berlin Wall, and there is a site with graves right here. And this piece is about a man that is standing there looking at the grave site, and it is his brother who has died, who had sacrificed himself. And so it's just a sad story. You think about all the families that were divided during the Cold War and all the people that died trying to cross over. But very well done, Diane. I really like this piece and what you did with representing the emotion behind this photograph. And it's interesting to think that only a few years later, after the date of this, that the wall would come down and those people would be reunited. But it reminds me also that I really love the power of snapshot photography, especially these candid or impromptu photos like this, that perhaps the person taking the photo at the time didn't think it would have such impact. It was just a snapshot of these graves along the wall. But here, decades later, it takes on new added meaning. And I really like the aesthetic of snapshots. It's not a very sharp picture. Colors are not entirely accurate, but it's wonderful. It has wonderful life to it. Thank you very much. David Corneli's piece is wonderful and sad, and it does fit in with the U.S. Memorial Day holiday in some ways here. But his piece is called Going Home, and it was written in a 1953 Gossin Tippa, a wonderful typewriter. And his piece is about this photograph of these two farmers with their two dogs kneeling in front of a farmall tractor. You would think it's a very idyllic, small town kind of a setting, but Walt and Ray are veterans of the war, and for Walt and Ray, as David says, being back home was a kind of therapy. Plenty of work to be done. It was much less terrifying, the work they're doing now, than their walks in the woods overseas, where often as not, it was the farm boys who were best suited to lead the way through unfamiliar terrain. And he talks about how they're able to bear, through the stories they tell, the immense burden of war, the memories of lost friends, and unspeakable horrors and mental trauma. And so it's really a special story you wrote, and you really think about these people, these ordinary farmer type people, and the things that they might have lived through having been in the war. Thank you very much, David. That was real special. And finally, my piece was written on a 1957 Remington Quiet Writer, and it was based on this little black and white photograph that I bought in a thrift store of two gentlemen in looks like rainy kind of conditions, walking along a sidewalk next to an old car, probably 1940s setting. The one gentleman is looking back at the camera, and so I wrote this story about this guy named Charlie, and this photograph was taken on the day he was leaving to go into the Marines to fight World War II, and I wrote this little story about that. And we had several pieces in this typing assignment series this time about war and the aftermath. And it is interesting, the people that served in that generation, they certainly were the greatest generation. We have these photographs back from their era that we can think about their sacrifice. But I thank you very much, all of you, for participating in the typing assignment series. I know it's a lot of work having to find the particular item, in this case a photograph, and then having to think of a story behind it and write it up, type it up, and do all the photographing of it and all that. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate all the work that you guys do, and I hope it's of value and a blessing to you guys. It certainly is to me, and I hope that by continuing these assignments, by your continued participation, it'll help you grow as a writer, as it does me. Well, thank you very much for all of your great work, your submissions this time. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and until next time, you guys have yourselves a great day.